just like your education, research interest, industrial experience, your path towards teaching, and some advice on getting involved in research.
Okay. So should I start with education?
Yeah.
Okay. So I started undergrad at UC Santa Barbara. Um, so my path is not very traditional, so bear with me. So I applied when I was in high school, I applied to a bunch of different programs at different schools. Some of them were engineering, some of them were not. And so at UC Santa Barbara, I had applied as a psychology major, and I got in for psychology. So um, before I left to college, I had a meeting with my math teacher in high school, and he kind of sat down with me and kind of explained what engineering was and how he felt like I would be pretty fit to do engineering because I did really well in math. And so, um, yeah, so then because of that, I kind of found an interest in wanting to do engineering, but I had already applied as a psychology major. So I decided to go to UC Santa Barbara and try to switch my major into engineering. And so I started off at Santa Barbara and I started taking prerequisite classes for engineering, even though I wasn't an engineering major, with the purpose of trying to transfer into the major. And so at Santa Barbara, it's a little bit more complicated because they have the university, which is UC Santa Barbara, and then they have three colleges within that university. One is the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences, one is the College of Engineering, and then they have another college of, I believe it was Creative Studies. And so I was accepted into the College of Letters, Arts, and Sciences as a psychology major, and I was trying to switch to the College of Engineering, which was for engineering majors. And so I took all my prerequisite classes, all my math, all my physics, chemistry, programming classes at UC Santa Barbara for the first 2 years. And then I applied into the program at the end of my second year and was not accepted. So Santa Barbara is very competitive for engineering as is. And so they typically only take in about two students who are already UC Santa Barbara students who are trying to switch into engineering. And so it's like a million times more competitive than applying to UC Santa Barbara as a high school student and trying to get into engineering. And so they only accepted like two students and they were both like 4.0 students. And I was not a 4.0 student. So it was very competitive, but I decided that I still wanted to do engineering. And since I wasn't able to do it at UC Santa Barbara, I did something super non-traditional and I transferred out of the university and I started to attend Cal State Los Angeles. And so it's like, it was a really hard time because a lot of people kind of look down on it like, oh, well, you're at a UC. Why would you leave a UC to go to Cal State? Because most people think that UCs are higher than Cal States, which is a complete myth, by the way. Um, and so a lot of people kind of felt like I was making a mistake by doing so. But I did it anyways. And so I transferred out of UCSB and I started my third year at Cal State LA as a mechanical engineering major. And I had already done all my prerequisites. So as soon as I got to Cal State LA, I started just doing my core classes for engineering. So that's when I took like my statics, dynamics, thermodynamics, fluid mechanics, vibrations, controls, all that kind of stuff. And so then I did 3 years at Cal State LA. So my total undergrad was 5 years, 2 years at UC Santa Barbara, 3 years at Cal State LA, and then I ended up graduating from Cal State LA with mechanical engineering. And it was a lot better than I would have thought, actually. I think switching to Cal State LA, I was able to get a lot more opportunities than I would have ever been able to do at Santa Barbara, just because um, just the environment was like set me up for success. So at Cal State LA, the classes were a lot smaller. The professors were really focused on teaching. And so it was easier for me to pick up concepts and learn things in the classes at Cal State LA. Whereas at UC Santa Barbara, I was sitting in like lecture halls of about 300 students trying to learn physics. And it's just a professor up there lecturing like the whole time. So it was harder to have contact with the professor. It was harder to learn in an environment where you had so many students sitting in one area. So it wasn't very discussion based. You couldn't like really ask a lot of questions per se. And so when I went to Cal State LA, it was completely different. So I felt like I was really thriving in the classes. I had classmates that kind of were in the same classes as me, so I was able to make study groups with my friends. So I just felt like there was a lot more opportunities for me being at Cal State LA in engineering than there was at Santa Barbara, which is why I kind of said like it was a myth that people think that you're more competitive if you go to a UC compared to a Cal State, because it's not really true. But and then after my undergrad, so my senior year of undergrad, I started applying to grad school because I did a lot of research as an undergraduate in a lot of different places. So I could tell you a little bit about that later. But because of that, I found that I really liked research, and I liked the freedom and like the creativity that was behind doing research. And so I decided that I wanted to pursue grad school, specifically a doctorate, a PhD, because I wanted to continue doing research. So then I applied to a lot of different grad schools and then ended up settling on going to UC San Diego for my PhD. So as soon as I graduated undergrad, I went straight into a PhD program here at UCSD, and then received my master's after 1 year in my PhD program, and kind of now have been focusing on my PhD project. So that was like my education.
Wow.
Yeah, I know it's really long and really non-traditional.
But it's nice that you were able to find lots of opportunities when you pursued what you really wanted to do.
Yeah, and I honestly feel, and I can say that I probably would not have been very successful in engineering if I would have stayed at Santa Barbara. And I also speak because, I had a lot of friends at Santa Barbara who were engineering majors, and I know the struggle that they experienced being there compared to what I was going through at Cal State LA. So I felt like I had put myself in a better situation by going to a school at Cal State LA to do engineering. And then when it actually came down to it, I could have gone into industry if I wanted to, like just like some of the friends that were on this panel. Like I could have gone straight into an industry job after I graduated. I had all the opportunities. I was very competitive. I had like people offering me these positions, but I just did not want to do that because I'm the type of person that gets bored very easily, which may sound horrible, but like most of the entry level engineering jobs that you would get if you go straight into industry after your bachelor's are very constrained. And so I think some of the panelists touched on that, is like you have a boss, and then they have a boss, and they have a boss, and you're kind of told what to do all the way down the ladder, and you're put on these projects that are not very like creative, or like you don't have like a lot of intellectual flexibility in what you can do. You kind of have to meet a deadline, or you have to create a new product, but there's no creativity allowed in terms of what you can provide to that project. There's a lot of paperwork involved. There's a lot of sitting at cubicles involved. And so that just was not my style. That was not me, and I didn't feel happy doing something like that, which is why I enjoyed the research more than I did going into an industry job. And then you start to see that as you do a master's and you do a PhD, you become more expert in what it is you're studying. And so when you go back into industry, you are put into projects that are, with a lot more flexibility and a lot more creativity. You have roles, or you get a job that allows you to be more outspoken about the things you can contribute to the project. You're put on projects that can provide you, that creative flow that you like to do. So yeah, I think that's one of the biggest differences in that case. Mm-hmm. Okay. I think I went on a tangent, sorry, but yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. What would you say is like for job wise for like material science major? How's that?
Yeah, I think a lot of people are like, where do material scientists work? So material scientists actually can go anywhere. So whatever you can think of uses material science. So just like alone, just going off of some of like the areas that our panelists were from. So NASA hires material scientists. They do research and development work, so R&D work on materials that they use on things that they send to space. And so they have material scientists. The biotech companies that some of our panelists were a part of, they use material scientists. So in material science, you kind of have two areas that you can go to. You can go to organic materials or inorganic materials. And so inorganic materials are things like metals, ceramics, like things that are not natural. And then inorganic materials, you do a lot more things like bio-inspired things or like cell work or things like that. But it's a lot of stuff that biotechnologies use or bioengineering companies use. So they also use material scientists who focus on the organic side. So aerospace, definitely. Biotech, definitely. Could companies that you see every day in like your products. So if you go to the grocery store and you're like picking up shampoo and you see something like Procter and Gamble, they use material scientists that do a lot of different reactions for their cosmetics, for the things that they use, because we are very well versed in chemistry as well. Automotive also uses material scientists. So like Tesla, so like the materials that they work for the production of their cars, that's also research and development that material scientists do. So anywhere in the industry that you can think of, they hire material scientists to do that work. So yeah, it's pretty much everywhere. And you can choose the field that you want to go to, which is why it's really nice, is that you're not kind of just put in one field. You can choose whatever interests you the most. A lot of like my coworkers or whatever that have graduated and got their PhD tend to go into the technology area. So like they work for companies like Intel, HP, Apple, and they do a lot of like semiconducting work. So like all the little chips that are on your phones or your computers, that's stuff that material scientists work on. So yeah, so like pretty much anything you can think of, you can, they always have a material scientist there.
I have a question about the homework.
Oh yeah, sorry, I didn't